Hello everyone. On occasion of World Mental Health Day, let me welcome Sridevi. Sridevi works as a technical program manager in VMware. She has recently founded her venture called the Money Wellness Studio. Here, she shares her experiences with money and talks about the psychology behind the decisions we make regarding our finances. She aims to educate and destigmatize money through her venture and provides various activities which helps you manage your money better. In this webinar, we will discuss a wide range of topics from cybercrime, cyber awareness, financial planning, and mental wellness. With the rise of financial adoption, we see there has been a rise in cybercrimes. Hackers are using different techniques to steal money from users, and this causes immense trauma for consumers when they lose their hard-earned money. In this case, what consumers should take into consideration using any financial application? How can consumers stay safe? If you could explain that, Sridevi.
Hi, Ramita. Thank you so much for inviting me on this. Happy to take up this question. So cybercrime is definitely a growing problem in our country, and we see that even the most educated IT professionals are exposed to the risk of getting trapped by cybercriminals. So, and we are so busy in our life that we don't even have the time to verify the genuineness of a bank customer care executive that we deal with. So a couple of things that we need to keep in mind before we kind of deal with these things are, don't ever disclose any sort of financial confidential information such as OTP, CVV, etc. In fact, the banks themselves send us messages saying, we never ask you for OTP, we never ask you for CVV, etc. So do not engage with them at all. And in case you get messages which have like random links, don't click on them. Especially if you haven't asked for those services, there is no need to respond to such messages at all. And in case your bank account or your credit card has been blocked, don't panic. You are a customer of the bank. You can always call them and talk to them. And these days, banks are really, really responsive. So I'm sure that, it'll get sorted out. Do not panic in that case. That would be my advice.
So my next question to you would be, how do you start investing when you are young?
That's a great question. The first thing that I would say is just start investing, right? It's important to get into the habit of investing. It's important to develop the discipline to invest. So don't wait till you have like X amount and then start dipping your toe into the market. Start small, fail fast, scale big. That's what I would say. Yes, this is going to take a long time, but all good things to those who wait. Another thing that you're doing through this is you're building confidence about yourself, right? Rupee by rupee. It's not just that the money that's sitting and compounding, it's also your confidence. You know that you can sleep peacefully, keeping in mind that you are financially independent or at least getting there. And what does this achieve? Well, it gives you space and time to breathe and make important decisions without the burden of money weighing you down. Another thing is it gives you control of the most important player in your life, which is time. It gives you control over your time. So just start. That's my biggest advice for investors who are starting off young.
I wish I had known you earlier when I was younger. So thank you.
Start now, Ramita.
Yeah, so that's the next question for people who I think I can relate to this. So how do you plan your money when you have a stress of EMIs?
Yeah, the stress and worry of EMIs and loans are, they're quite real and they should definitely not be trivialized. Firstly, I think it's important that we recognize the fact that, you've been managing your money and money responsibilities really well till now. So, you should really give yourself a pat on the back and be glad that you've achieved this much. Gratitude and positive thinking will take you a really long way. Now, when it comes to EMIs, you don't want to default on them. You also don't want to default on your responsibilities either. So one of the things that I would say is to just start creating a safety net for yourself. And this safety net will let you sleep peacefully at night. So they're supported by a couple of pillars, right? One is an emergency fund. In case you lose your job or there is some emergency that you encounter wherein you need to take off from work, you will need an emergency fund. And this should be set up in a way that it covers your expenses for the next 6 to 9 months at least. Don't worry if this takes a really long time for you to do. It took me 2 years to build my own emergency fund. If you're on your way to doing this, then you should be good. You can read more about emergency funds on my website, moneywellnessstudio.com. The second thing that you can do is get a term insurance in case anything happens to you. I mean, I hope nothing happens to you. And I know this is really, really morbid to think about it. But in case anything happens to you, then your dear ones need to be protected. So we need to think about how our responsibilities do not become a burden for our families. For this, I would suggest you set up a term insurance for yourself. I use Policy Bazaar to check the term insurance plan that's best for me. You should do your own research, but please make sure that you get this. And the third pillar would be the public provident fund. I mean, this is the most ignored thing in our investment journey. All of us need to totally capitalize on this because the returns are completely tax-free and the returns are fixed. They are not dependent on the market. So it's not affected by the volatility of the market. Set this up if you haven't already. Make full use of it. Put in the entire 1.5 lakhs if you can. If not, put in whatever you can, right? With these three things, emergency fund, term insurance, and public provident fund backing you, I think you'll be fine. Hopefully the stress will reduce.
Thank you. I think it was very helpful for our audience as well,
Sure.
People who really want to have a good financial emergency fund. With that, I would also like to know how to manage expenses.
Yeah, so another cause for concern with our mental health is our expenses, right? We don't know where our money is going, firstly. So how do we figure out how to manage the expenses? In order to do that, what we need to do is understand where our money is going. So look at your bank account statement for the past 3 months and see if you can find patterns. Put them into different buckets like recurring expenses. Now, what are these recurring expenses? They are your rent, your groceries, your bills, subscriptions, EMIs, right? What do these recurring expenses amount to month on month? Next thing is that we have social needs. We're all like human beings. We all need social. We all have social needs. So we go out for dinner, movie, drinks, whatever. What is this? Is this good for you? Is this bad for you? That is only something that you can tell for yourself. Now, another thing is impulse buys. There are things that we're just screening through our phones, and then we suddenly see something that we want and we immediately buy it. Now, there can be two things. One is impulse buys that are good, and the other one is impulse buys that are not so good. Now, what are impulse buys that are good? For example, you are just scrolling through your phone and you see that there is a Udemy course that will help you upskill and you really want to buy it. Now, this is an investment in yourself. Go for it. Good impulse buy, not a bad thing at all. But if you're going through your phone and you see a dress, and this is the 5th dress of the month, now that's not an impulse buy that was great, right? Another bucket that expenses fall into are something that was absolutely necessary, but they're not exactly recurring. For example, a doctor's visit. This is not something that we do every month, but it is something that had to be done. So I would suggest like putting all your money in different buckets for the past 3 months to kind of understand the pattern in which you're spending. And this way, after you're done with this exercise, you will be more self-aware and understand where your money has been going. You will see a pattern in your expenditure and understand what you can cut down and where you can do better. Maybe you're spending way too much on impulse buys that are not so good. And this money can actually be redirected towards your EMIs. Being aware of your patterns and expenses is a huge help mentally because you're on a path of being more mindful about your spending. And even if you aren't, you at least know where you stand and what needs to be done. The next step is to actually use this information wisely and make some smart decisions.
Thank you. I think most of us can relate to how you explain the expenses, especially the lovely ladies out there. So yeah. So, in today's world, we already go through a lot of mental health issues, right? Maybe balancing our work, stress, life, and stuff like that. So how to plan for a mental health financially?
Now, mental health is a really taboo subject in our country. There are a lot of misconceptions around it. Both men and women need to pay attention to our mental health and take really good care of it. Now, how can we do this and how can we plan for this? Firstly, what you need to do is ensure that you have a good support structure of family and friends. Create a safe space with them and share your concerns. Give your stress a voice and listen to how reasonable or unreasonable the concern actually is. Talk to your peers and exchange your stories, because when you talk it out, there are multiple perspectives that open up, and you will realize that your way of thinking is not the only way of thinking. There are multiple ways to view this particular issue. Create a community in your workspace and talk about mental health and the pressures of work. Be more open and invite people to talk about their struggles without any judgment. And lastly, if you want to, find a good therapist. You don't have to have a debilitating mental health issue in order to go to a therapist. You can simply talk to one every month or every 2 months. Just check in with yourself and understand what is going on. And in order to budget for this, keep some money aside in the beginning of the month itself. The reason that mental well-being and financial well-being are tied together in our lives is because there's a lot of stress that comes from life due to money. And being more aware of it, we take back control on how much we let it dictate our lives.
Thank you, Sridevi. It was a lovely webinar. It was pretty insightful, I'm sure, for people across the world. And now, if anybody wants to learn more or connect with you to financially plan themselves, then you may like to just go ahead and introduce your business to everyone.
Yeah, so please reach out to me. I'm on LinkedIn as the Money Wellness Studio. I'm available on Instagram as the Money Wellness Studio. There is also a website called the Money Wellness Studio. So there are multiple places that you can reach out to me. I'm also on Twitter. So there is no reason for you not to reach out to me. Share your money stories with me. I'm really, I would love to talk to you about it. If you want to share your stories, I'd be happy to listen to it. I'm not here to give you any financial advice, but I'm here to listen to your stories, and I'm here to share my story with you, and hopefully you'll gain a great perspective after you talk to me.
Thank you. So the details of Sridevi's business will be put in under the description box, and you may connect with her. Thank you for your time. Have a lovely day.
Thank you.